Hi friends, I'm Felicia. Welcome back to my channel. So I came to you last video with part of my quarter 1 wrap up, and this is going to be the rest of the books that I read in the first 3 months of the year. So we're going to start with contemporary. So this is the second book that I finished this year, and that was The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. And I won this ARC from Goodreads giveaways. So, you know, miracles do happen and you can actually win them. Just been entering them for, 3 years or whatever. This book came out towards the end of last year, and this is a story that follows a teenage girl whose family is illegal immigrants from Jamaica, and they are facing deportation. So we just kind of follow her dealing with that, and then she meets this guy named Daniel, and so it's kind of a love story where they know that they may only have one day together, and this book takes place over 24 hours, which I love. I love stories like that, so if you can recommend me books that take place over the span of like 24 hours or 48 hours or something, like, I love that, so let me know. But yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I really like Nicola Yoon's writing. I think she writes characters very well so that you feel for them. My favorite thing about this book actually was, though, that she takes the perspectives of people looking into Natasha and Daniel's lives and their relationship, and then she tells like a chapter or something from their point of view, and I loved that. That was my favorite part of the book. But yeah, I thought this was a really strong contemporary. If you like things like that, I definitely recommend it. The next book that I read, this was a reread on audio, and that was The Devil Wears Prada by Lauren Weisberger, or Weisberger, I'm not sure. So I'm sure you know what the plot of this is. The movie is very popular. I feel like more popular than the book, and it should be because this book is not very good. I read this book years ago, and I don't remember not liking it as much as I did not like it. Yeah, just watch the movie, skip the book. Just, yeah, I'm unhauling this book. I'm putting it in my box of stuff to go to the thrift store. That's just how done with that book I am. Just watch the movie. It's a million times better. And I mean, Anne Hathaway is just a delight, as well as Meryl Streep and Stanley Tucci. I love Stanley Tucci in that movie. And Emily Blunt. Everyone in that movie is just so good. I forgot to mention, The Sun Is Also a Star. That was our Reads with Friends Goodreads group pick for January, and so I'll be linking the live show to that. Then the next book, this was our February pick for a Reads with Friends, and that is The Husband's Secret by Leanne Moriarty. And that, I don't know how to classify this book. It's kind of like a mystery, but like a contemporary, very much like Desperate Housewives. Not that I watched that show ever, but just what goes on behind the doors at this perfect schoolmom's house, you know. The premise is this woman, Cecilia, she finds a letter that her husband wrote to her, and on the outside it says, to be opened in the event of my death. And she finds this letter before she was supposed to, and so we're kind of faced with this. You know, is she going to open it and read it, or is she not? What are the contents and such. I liked the book. I listened to that on audio, and the narrator had an Australian accent, and like my thoughts were Australian after, because I was listening to it for hours at work. It was fun. But yeah, I thought Leanne Moriarty did a really good job of keeping you engaged and wanting to know what was happening, and giving you clues in a way that you were like, oh yeah, I totally knew that. I knew that already like 3 chapters ago, when really you didn't. But, or at least me, I didn't. But she makes you feel like, oh yeah, I'm totally tracking with this. Yeah, I thought that was really good. I would read more of her books. I think they would be good like beach reads or road trip or something. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I would read more of her books. Okay, moving on to historical fiction. The first book is The Book Thief. I just whacked my nose. Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This book is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. Every word in this book is just perfection, and I love it. Thanks to Angela from Coffee and Chapters for giving me this book for Christmas, because I love it so much. Yeah, I love it. If you don't know what the premise is, I've I'm sorry, you should just read it. It's set in World War II. You know how I feel about World War II fiction. I love it. If you haven't read it, you should. And then you should cry tears with me, you know. And this also has, this is the 10th anniversary edition, and there's some bonus content in the back, which is very interesting. So I enjoyed reading that as well. And I just love this book, and it's amazing. And that was only, I've only read it 2 times. Like, that was only my second reading of it, which I felt weird. Like, I was like, oh, I've only read this 2 times? That's weird. Then the next 2 books are another audiobook at work reread. And that, I don't know what this name of the series is, but the first book is Confessions of a Jane Austen Addict, and the second book is Rude Awakenings of a Jane Austen Addict, and the author is Lori Vieira Rigler. And I totally got these like 8 years ago at Chapters on the $5 table. So, you know, so that's why they don't match, but I'm not complaining for 10 bucks. The first book, it follows a woman who is from our world, and she wakes up in the body of someone that lives in Regency, England. And so she has to figure out how to live this life of this woman that she has never even met before in the past, has to figure out how to live like a proper English woman in Regency times when she comes from our modern day in North America. And then the second book, Rude Awakenings, is the flip of that. So the woman whose body is taken over in this book is now in this one. So she's coming from Regency, England, into modern day Los Angeles. And so it's just really funny to kind of think about what would happen if we woke up in Regency times, and what would someone that lived in Regency times do if they woke up in our times. And they have to be like this strange woman that they don't know, and they have to live her life. So it's really fun. The audiobooks are pretty good, and I would recommend it for Jane Austen fans. Moving on to nonfiction. The first nonfiction book that I read was The Cozy Life by Pia Edberg, and that's basically a book about hygge. And if you're not familiar with the concept of hygge, is it Danish or Norwegian? Now I forget. It's Scandinavian. And it's a concept of basically cozy togetherness. And so they very much adopt this principle of just being cozy and spending time together with people and surrounding yourself with textures and flavors and scents and feelings that all just make you feel cozy and warm and loved and safe. And I'm all about that. Like, that's my whole life. And so I really enjoyed this book. It's just a very quick, easy read. Just kind of, you know, explaining this from someone that is from that culture. Yeah, I just recommend it if you're looking for something like that. It has illustrations in there as well. And so, yeah, it's just very cute. And I enjoyed it a lot. I would read it again because I love hygge. I'm all about that hygge life. The next nonfiction book that I read was The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and I'm not sure if this is like a business book or pop psychology or whatever, but basically he talks about the power of habit in our lives and how the brain forms habits and stuff. He goes through a lot of case studies, and the way that he's written these case studies, I forgot a lot of the time that I was reading nonfiction. It just felt like I was reading fiction because he told the stories so well. It was just really interesting. And like the first case study that he starts off with is from this elderly man living in the States, and he had some kind of virus, I think, in his brain that caused a lot of brain damage, and after that he wasn't able to form new memories, but he was still able to find the bathroom in buildings that he had been to before, but after this event. So like at the hospital, this researcher was studying him, and he would just get up and go to the bathroom in this building even though he couldn't remember ever having been there before. He and his wife moved to a new house, and he was able to walk around the block and go back to his house, even though if you would ask him which house was his, he wouldn't be able to tell you because he wouldn't know that that was his house, and like stuff like that. It was really fascinating, and he just had a lot of stories like that. The reason that it may be considered a business book is that also he goes through marketing case studies, how our habits dictate like our buying habits and stuff, and things that we will buy, and if we will buy new products and stuff like that. So it's just really interesting. Highly recommend it if you're interested in pop psychology, or you know, if you want to learn about habits. I think it's a really good read and very interesting. Really well written, that keeps you engaged. And the last nonfiction book that I read was Secrets of the Secret Place by Bob Sorga. I don't know how to say his last name. This is basically a devotional book going through ways of just going deeper in your relationship with the Lord. There are 52 short chapters in here, so I think he recommends reading one a week or something. And I was like, yeah, it basically took me that long to read it, even though I was not technically intentionally doing it one a week. But yeah, so a lot of his secrets are very practical. He has three different sections. Four sections. So part one, accepting the great invitation. And so then the chapters that follow that are, I guess, the benefits and stuff of what happens when you say yes to Jesus and just go into a secret place in your time with him. The next section is making it work. So then he has lots of practical chapters. So like the secret of praying the scriptures, of self-denial, of journaling and meditating, like stuff like that. And the other two chapters are more benefits and stuff and more heart stuff. Yeah, I really like this book. It was very easy to read. Lots of good stuff to chew on in here, and I would highly recommend it. So, YA. We're going to talk about YA now. And the first YA book that I read was Happily Ever After by Kiera Cass. That's the novella bind-up of all of the novellas from the Selection series. Just covers the first 3 books in the Selection series, not the Heir or the Crown. Yeah, just has stories from the perspectives of some of the side characters, and also has a few where are they now profiles, and I liked it. I like the series. It's cheesy reads for me, you know. So I just like that, and I wanted to be a completionist about that series, and so now I'm done. I've read everything published in there. And speaking of being a completionist, I don't know how I feel about this, because I don't know how other people are going to feel about me doing this, but I reread the Twilight series, and I read everything. I read Life and Death, which is the gender flipped telling of Twilight. I read Midnight Sun, which is the unpublished draft that she was working on, which tells Twilight from Edward's point of view. I read The Short Second Life of Bree Tanner, which is the novella. And then I read the 3 graphic novels. So Twilight Volumes 1 and 2 and New Moon Volume 1. And, you know, Twilight, New Moon, Eclipse, and Breaking Dawn. I read all of them. And I feel kind of like a loser because I'm 28 years old. But I liked it, guys. Like, yes, there are things in this series that are definitely problematic, but at the same time, I think it's just cheesy, and it was fun. And I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't hate it. I don't hate it. Yeah, I don't hate the Twilight books. So yeah, that's my life right now. So I read everything. I don't know what to say. Yeah, I just read all of them, and no regrets. And then, because I was still kind of in a vampire-y mood, I read The Coldest Girl in Coldtown by Holly Black. Didn't think I would ever read that book. I had like no interest in it, but my friend Christy, from what Christy's reading, mentioned it within the past few months, and so I was like, oh, yeah, I'll read it, whatever. I'm still kind of on vampires. So I read it, and man, the first chapter was amazing. Like, that was like one of the best first chapters that I've read in fiction in a while. But unfortunately, I didn't love the whole book. It just kind of felt very, I guess, typical. It was nothing special for me. Yeah, and I had to switch because these vampires are different than Twilight vampires. Basically, it's in our world, but vampires are an epidemic. So they have these cold towns where vampire bounty hunters can bring vampires. People that have been bitten but they haven't turned yet, they can go there. And often people just go there because it's kind of like the party life and they think it's cool. So the main character is trying to get there to one of these cold towns. So it just kind of follows her there. And yeah, I mean, if you like vampire books, I would recommend it. It was an interesting story. She did some interesting things with the vampire tropes that we usually see, but yeah, I don't know. Like, it wasn't amazing. I just thought it was okay. So yeah. And now I'm done with vampires. So those are all of the books that I've read so far in 2017. Yeah, and I'm hoping to get back to my regular monthly wrap-up schedule. I think filming 5 books at a time, that didn't work out for me because that was too much filming. So yeah, so that's all that I have for today. You know, if you've read any of those books or you're ashamed of me for liking my Twilight reread, you know, whatever. But yeah, so that's all that I have for today. I will see you guys next time in another video, and until then, so long and thanks for all the fish. I'm ridiculous, I know.